Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. 2 seconds before we came on live, my computer tried to do me dirty. If anyone can explain to me how I can keep my MacBook from zooming in every 2 seconds that I move my mouse, I would be more than happy to hear that from you, because every time I move my mouse, this bitch wants to go ahead and zoom in, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. But I digress. Hey, look, we got people already jumping on. I'll say this real quick. If you're finding Justin through me or me through Justin, please like, share, follow, do all those things. Put this on every yard sale site that you can find. That way we can get bumped off of all of them. That is the goal here. I appreciate y'all for popping in. But let's get into it. Joining us from the land of three-pointers. Maybe I should do it in this voice. This might even be better. So, and in this corner, weighing in at, who knows, at a whopping, who cares, all the way from French Lick, Indiana, it's Justin Whaley. How'd I do it? That was my it's my 30s announcer voice.
I love that, because I don't know what it is about that enunciation of it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you ever watched American Horror Story.
Yeah,
the
I used to early seasons.
Yeah, so Hotel, the way that one guy speaks, I don't even know what that's called, but that enunciation, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, well, people talk about everything just like this. Listen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
I
love it.
I dig it too. But Justin is here. He's going to be joining us. He's currently the head distiller with French Lick Spirits out of, I'm going to assume, like, we didn't even get French Lick, Indiana. I mean, I would assume, right?
The distillery, Spirits French Lick, is actually in West Baden. So West Baden and French Lick are literally two towns that are separated by nothing.
Okay.
It's like they just kind of meld together. So, yeah, we're technically in West Baden, but
you claim
the winery. Well, so the winery actually started in 1995 at a separate location just down the road that wasn't French Lick, so it was French Lick Winery. But whenever we moved to this location in West Baden, we just kept that name.
Just ran
but
with it.
A good person might be able to hit the new building from the old building with a potato gun. So
nice. And as well, I think you just found the next thing that you guys should be doing when you make your next vodka, because that's potato whiskey, as I always lovingly call it. You should take a potato and shoot it at the other building and see if you can hit it. I'm just saying. I think it's a phenomenal idea and promotional. And send me a video of it when you do shoot it. But let's get into some housekeeping here, folks, before we get into talking about how Justin went from an EMT to a head distiller over at French Lick. So, as always, folks, right over here over my right shoulder, we got the big board for Sticker and a Cause. If maybe you've got your own spirit, you've got a band that you're supporting, you've got a kids program, I don't care what it is. You can catch me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, X. We've got our website, theabovethebarpodcast.com. You can reach me there. All those different locations. Reach out to us. Let me know what you got going on. I'll tell you where to send all the stuff to, and you can go ahead and we'll read about you live here on the air, and it will cost you absolutely nothing. But you know what? Let's touch base back again real quick here, Justin. You were talking about shooting the potato gun. That fits perfectly with our sponsors. Our sponsors are Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Cooksaki, New York. Because when you shoot that potato gun and it goes through a window and it tears down, the window treatments are there, you can contact your local Budget Blinds and let them know, hey, you need new window treatments. And if you're here in the capital region of New York, either Rensselaer, Columbia, or Greene County, you can reach out to Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Budget Blinds of Hudson and Cooksaki, New York. They got you for blinds, shades, shutters, drapery. A lot of people don't realize they carry drapery. Everything that you can imagine. And this month, their sale is 20% off your entire order. And if you go ahead and motorize that order, they're going to take another 5% off. So that's up to 25% off your entire order. All you got to do is reach out to Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York. All right, Justin, all the house cleaning stuff is done. That's out of the way. So how's the weather up there in India? Oh, it got dark.
No, I kicked my light and decided it wanted to.
Folks, things are not going good in Indiana. The lights just went out, Justin. He didn't want to tell me he hadn't paid that part of the electric bill yet. He's spending all of his, he's spending all of his money on MASH bill. Things like this happen to folks, but either way, I digress. But seriously, man, I want to kind of run down, make sure I've got this all correct. So you were an EMT. Now, were you an EMT or a paramedic?
Paramedic and a firefighter.
Okay, so and listen, folks, if you don't know the difference between EMT and paramedic, that's sort of like the difference between your local lunch lady and the head chef at a 5-star restaurant. That's kind of my opinion. Listen,
I wouldn't put it that far, but
they both can cook, but there's definitely a difference between what that paramedic can do and what that an EMT can do. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. There's a big difference, but I would honestly take, if I had my preference in a partner when I was on the ambulance, I would take a really good EMT over a good paramedic any day, because too many
Well, like, you can only have so many chiefs. You can only have so many chiefs.
I also have to say that because my wife's an EMT and she was my favorite partner. So
as she pops her head in here in a minute, I was like, "Listen, son of a bitch, you got a problem with
right?"
That? Oh, I'm kidding. But so you did that, and then you became a firefighter.
Yes.
Now, where does the boxing fall into that also?
So there is an event here, and it's been going on for, I think this last year was year 15. But it's a charity boxing event called Guns and Hoses, and it's cops and firefighters. It started out as cops and firefighters boxing, and now EMS do it. There's actually a coroner that does it. But I had wanted to do that since I went and watched it like 10 years ago.
Wow.
I was like, I want to do this. And I never really had the opportunity. When I was working EMS, I was working 2 full-time jobs, didn't have time. Got on the fire department, but was still working part-time EMS. I finally said, you know what, fuck it, I'm making time. And started training for it. I had done jujitsu and kickboxing a little bit before this. But it's something that I wanted to do. It's at the Ford Center in Evansville, which it's a big arena. Like, I think this last time they had it was over 8,000 people there watching.
Wow.
So there are semi-pro and pro fighters that'll never get to fight in front of that many people.
I mean, that's legit.
So
I mean,
it's an experience. I actually fought in it 3 times.
Nice.
It's all for charity. It's just a really cool event. Nothing crazy. It's 3 1-minute rounds. You wouldn't think a 1-minute round is bad until you get in there and start doing it.
Yes.
And then the 1-minute break seems like 10 seconds.
Like I'm still trying to catch my breath.
Oh man, it was bad. There's some bad times.
So you've had, like, I mean, legitimately, you've had a pretty full career here. We're not talking about somebody who, you didn't, and don't take this in the wrong way, but it wasn't like you lived your whole life like, I just study whiskey and bourbons and this is
no.
It. You weren't. So how long were you? I mean, going back for a moment into the EMT and paramedics and all that, how long were you doing that for?
EMS from 2008 till 2022.
Oh wow.
And then fire from 2017 to 2022.
Oh, so you're doing those together at the same time? And I know you could do both of them at the same time.
So some states they don't allow you to, but here in Indiana they still do. The nice thing was like fire, I was working 3 24s a week, and then I would go work. I had what was called a Kelly day, so you had 3 days off in a row.
All right.
After your 3 shifts, so then I would go work the ambulance on my 3 days off.
Okay. So I mean that's a career. Let's call that what that is.
Oh, absolutely.
For that amount of time, we're not talking about you're not talking like, hey, I did this for a couple of weeks and I'm going to say I was a firefighter. I mean, you had a career at this. Yep. What makes you think, I'm going to step away from this now?
So, and in all honesty, I tell everybody that I fell into the whole distilling thing. So after my second fight, I had planned to go do a distillery tour, and there's three, four nice or major distilleries, not counting MGP here in Indiana. Two of them I had kind of leaned towards as far as going and doing a tour after my fight. And in all honesty, I messaged one of my friends and say, "Hey, which one do you want to go to?" And they said, "Let's go to French Lick. We've been to the other one." And so me, a few friends that had come watch me fight, we went and started hanging out, or we went to the distillery and done a tour. And I started going in and hanging out. My wife had mentioned to them that I do some drone work and photography, and just started hanging out. Was going in there for free just to have fun. And on my days off, because I slowed down a little bit on the ambulance. I was burning myself out, is what it was. So I slowed down a little bit on the ambulance.
And that was in the middle of
What's
COVID.
that?
And you were in the middle of COVID at those times too.
Yeah. That put a big damper on things. But yeah, I just went in and started hanging out. Alan, or the gentleman that I learned under, and was running the distillery up until about coming up on 2 months. I guess it would be 2 months now. He kind of invited me to come in and hang out every once in a while. That turned into me working part-time, and then I went there full-time, and now here's where I'm at.
Wow. So what was it that when you first started kind of, I mean, because I think about it like me, it's as for most adult men, maybe even women, but just I'm going to be sexist for a moment. That's kind of one of those cool things to say to your buddies. Be like, yeah, hanging out at the distillery, they're teaching me how to make this. Like, yeah, that's kind of how the vibe to it would feel to us. But where did that shift from? Well, this is kind of cool. I'm hanging out here. These guys like it, and this is a place I can relax, and my wife's okay with me being here. Which, I mean, I think, I mean, she sounds like she's a cool person, because I think a lot of guys' wives would be like, forget all that. You're not just hanging out at a distillery just so you can get housed, and then I got to come pick you up. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, where did that shift come in from it being, this is kind of interesting and it's fun to hang out here, to, no, I could see myself really getting into this?
A lot of it was kind of out of necessity. I was, like I said, burnout with the whole EMS thing. The fire department wasn't 100% exactly what I thought it was going to be going into it. I still loved it. I still miss it to this day. But it wasn't what I thought I was going to get into. And so it was mainly just out of necessity. I decided, you know what, I think I can do this. I've always liked distilling. I had an uncle that had ran Shine way back in the day. I always had an interest in it, I guess you could say. And I'd done some homemade wine and mead and stuff like that here at home. So I kind of had a base knowledge as far as fermentation goes. And when Alan said one day, he goes, you know, you can do this. It's not like a secret club that we only let certain people into. He goes, if you want to do this, I will teach you how to do it, and you can do it. And that was just yeah.
How far?
And then, I came home and talked to my wife. About it, and she's like, "Do you think you can do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I asked her, I said, "Do you think I can do it?" And she said, "You've never tried to do something and not been able to do it. So, yeah." So we just went from there.
Is there anything better than having a great cheerleader in your corner, in your spouse?
No, there's absolutely not. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
No, I'm in the same boat. My, from the podcast to owning our own business, and I worked for Amtrak for 7 years. I had a good union job. I was good, and to change careers. And she was like, "You all right with it?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I think we'll still be able to pay bills. We'll be successful." She's like, "All right, you do you, boo." And next thing I know, so I this is for her, so she deserves this. Can you hear the applause? Did it come through? You're looking at me all crazy.
I heard one. That was it.
That's all you heard was one? Hold on.
Yeah. There it is.
I'm about to say, she gets applause. Like, hold on here. But I'm over here. And look, folks, I forgot to run the banner. Look at that. If you're watching the live video, you can see what Justin and the folks over at Spirit of French Lick have going on. If you check out spiritoffrenchlick.com. And I'm just looking, I mean, initially when we started talking, and you've got the T-shirt on for it, you have the Psych, which is the smoked gin, right?
Yes.
And you said that's only available there at the distillery as part of like this is the prize that we're holding for ourselves, right?
Well, so initially that's what it was going to be. I'm trying to kind of get them or push them in the direction of having it available online. So we have an online store that you can find there on the website. It's not stuff that you buy from us and we ship out. It's honestly just an online distributor. We're trying, or I'm trying to kind of push the front of the house to get it on there, and they are working on that. It's just taking a little bit of time. So it should be available online at some point in time, but it probably won't be distributed to stores.
I mean, and I mean, their selection online is pretty substantial, especially, typically, I have to say, typically for most, they're a smaller distiller. I mean, in the grand scheme of it, this isn't a Seagram's, but
Yeah.
you don't see this much selection. I mean, folks, if you check out the French Lick Spirits website, it is, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different bourbon, 5, excuse me. Oh, you guys do a white dog too.
Mhm.
Listen, folks, if you want to, in my opinion, if you want to know if a small distiller is legit or not, do they do a white dog? And if you don't know what a white dog is, look up the history of why bourbon is the color that it is. And all a white dog is that shit just kissed the barrel and got put in a bottle. That's all that
Yep.
is. And if it doesn't take paint off the walls, it's not a good white dog, in my opinion, because like it's a legit alcohol flavor to it. But I mean, so you've got 5 different bourbons. We're looking at, I see 2 brandies. What is an aquavit? What is an aquavit? I don't even know what that.
Aquavit. So that is a Scandinavian spirit. It's made just like gin, but it has different botanicals. So gin, Old Toms and London Dries are really juniper forward. Now American gins are a little bit less juniper forward, obviously. Aquavit has dill, caraway, coriander, and then a little bit of juniper. So it's a little bit more savory, reminiscent of like a dilly rye bread. It's kind of what it reminds me of, but it's super savory, amazing in a Bloody Mary.
I hate Bloody Marys. Oh,
Yeah, fair enough.
oh God, it's one of those that to me. But I mean, let's call it right now. You guys are chasing the green fairy, also though.
We do have absinthe now. Ours isn't green. Ours is a clear absinthe that's called Le Bleu. So there's 2 styles of absinthe. There's a Verde absinthe and there's a Swiss style or Le Bleu absinthe. So whenever you loosh it down with water, it actually gets a little iridescent blue. It's a little bit lighter on the flavor. It's more of an Americanized absinthe than anything else.
So I'm not going to be chasing the green fairy.
No, that's a wives' tale, anyways.
Well, but I thought original, like legit old school absinthe had heroin in it.
No, so what would make you, if anything was to make you hallucinate in absinthe, it would be the wormwood, and wormwood's a bittering agent. Same thing that's in Malort, right? And we don't see people talking about they're hallucinating on Malort.
Nope.
But what it is I'll get into the story as to why it was banned in the hallucinations. But so wormwood, after it's distilled and broken down in your body, it turns into alpha thujone. Alpha thujone can become toxic in your body in high levels and create brain swelling, seizures, hallucinations, and then eventually death if you don't take care of it. But it wasn't really trippy hallucinations. It was because you're swelling out of the bottom of your brain pan. So the reason it was outlawed, so it was banned in the US from 1913 up until 2007. And it was banned overseas for different lengths of time. But the reason it was banned is in France, late 1800s, there were some bad years for the grapes. So brandy wasn't doing well. Champagne wasn't doing well. Wine wasn't doing well. Absinthe started taking off because it's not like a typical alcohol. It's a whole lot sweeter than other alcohols. It drinks more like a cordial than a liquor, in all honesty. So it started taking off really well. The wine makers, champagne makers didn't like that. So they started telling the right stories, lining the right pockets, saying it would make you hallucinate, make you kill your family. There was a gentleman that went on a bender of like 5 or 6 days of drinking different things and killed his family and tried to kill himself, and they blamed it on absinthe. But with all that being said, that eventually led to a ban with absinthe because they believed it would make you hallucinate. Now, you mentioned the old absinthe. So the gentleman that actually got it legalized in the United States, and I believe he owns St. George Distillery, which was the first absinthe in the U.S. since the ban that was released in 2007. He did a lot of research on pre-ban absinthe and a lot of what's the fancy word I'm looking for? A lot of breaking down of he had bottles of pre-ban absinthe and he was checking them, through
Having them chemically checked
different
out.
scopes. Yes, chemically. Thank you. Jen can't thank. But they found that even in those pre-ban absinthe, there was not enough thujone in those to make somebody hallucinate.
So it was really it's like marijuana being used to against Hispanic populations or Mexican populations in the same time frame because people felt like, oh, they're coming here and they're taking jobs from Americans. So we'll say
Yep.
they're all high on marijuana and it's causing them to rape our women and they're crazy people. And
Yep.
interesting.
Just propaganda, that's all it was.
It isn't it always. Well, staying with that for a minute, you may have heard that how Howard Hughes, you remember the media mogul of the 1930s and 40s and all that, Howard Hughes, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't, but go ahead because I like stories.
Howard Hughes, what's his name, did a movie about him. What the hell is his name? Gilbert Grape. Damn it, I can't think of his name right now. And this, folks, is why no one should drink just before a show. What the hell is his name? That What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Titanic. The heck is that actor's name? Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
So Leonardo DiCaprio plays Howard Hughes in a movie. I think it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Built the Spruce Goose, the largest plane ever built, all that kind of stuff. But he is actually attributed with Howard Hughes is attributed with why marijuana is a Schedule I drug in the United States because he owned all the paper mills and all the newspapers and all the media. But the biggest competition for his paper that he was producing was hemp paper. Anybody could grow. It was very easy to grow, very easy to produce, and it was very affordable. So he pushed the congressional folks to outlaw it and outlaw marijuana because that way the only paper available would be his paper.
Yep. I remember hearing that now. I can't remember where I heard Joe Rogan podcast. Actually, they were talking
was
about
it?
that.
Yeah. This was something from years and years and years ago. I'd heard. I do like Joe. Don't get it wrong. If I could get a little bit of Joe money, I'm all about it. But the guy is, listen, left turn for a moment. Let's talk about this for a second. Did that guy not master hanging out with his buddies and making you feel like that's where I want to hang out? Like you want to be the guy that like, I know I'm not cool enough to be with all those guys, but man, I feel like I get to listen into those guys' stories.
Yeah.
And they all sound like they want to bring you in. That's the power of Joe Rogan's show. Like absolutely. And for those of you that are out there watching us and you're seeing Justin, you're seeing me, make sure you're liking, sharing. If you have questions for Justin over it, he's the head distiller at Spirits of French Lick. If you're curious about distilling, or hey, you know what? Maybe you're looking at their website and you're saying, hey, what does this stuff pair well with? Now, I want to go back to Psych for a second.
Yeah.
Because first off, I love the design. I love the very Nordic Viking look of it, which has a very like that's a weird thing about that part of the Midwest that I don't think people realize is how many like Norwegian, Scandinavians, like culture is up that way. Like y'all, there's areas up there that still in Minnesota they eat lutefisk. You know what lutefisk is?
And that's a super stinky fish.
Yep, that's actually cured in lye that will kill you if it's not like cleaned up right. Yeah.
Yep.
Like gross.
Yeah, no way.
No way. But so if I remember from our early conversations, this is for you, like you're still the head distiller. And you correct me. I imagine you're still overseeing these other bottles that are being produced, but
Mhm.
Psych is your first true, like, this is me.
Yeah, yeah, that was my first thing I released, and there's a funny story behind that. So this is when Alan was still there, because the planning for this bottle started last November, maybe before that. So we were in the line for the eclipse, and
Okay.
they wanted to do something special for the eclipse. And Alan said, "Hey, let's do a smoked gin. By the way, that can be Justin's first project." I wasn't in this meeting, and then he came back and told me, I was like, "Man, I hate gin. Why are you doing this to me?" But I'm sitting here drinking it now, so I've kind of fell in love with some different gins. But yeah, that was my first project. I got to, with help from Alan, obviously, because some of my ideas weren't great ideas, but I got to kind of design the mash bill, design the botanical bill that went into it, how it was distilled, did all the fermentation, the cook. Um, Obviously, once again, with help from them, because that was a big undertaking to do that. Because we did a little different. We didn't do the cook in the cooker. We actually did it in the still. We
What do you
fermented
mean?
it in the
Now,
still.
what does that mean? You didn't do the cook and the what does that mean?
So we have a few different pieces of equipment. We have a corn cooker, which is the big vat that's steam heated that we normally do all of our mashing in. So the water, the grain usually goes into that and then is pumped into a fermenter after it is cooked, and allowed to ferment in the fermenter. With this, we actually ground all the grain, dumped it into the still, and did the cook in the still. So most gins, you start with like a neutral spirit like vodka, and then add the botanicals to that, let that macerate for a couple of days, and then run the still. And you cut it a whole lot different. So this was made just like a whiskey. It's 4 grains. It's corn, wheat, oats, and barley. And then
Interesting.
we had the oats and the wheat smoked with our barrel staves. That's where you get the smoke from. But mastered in just like you would a normal whiskey. Once I got it up to temperature, I dumped all the botanicals in, and it allowed that to cool down. It took 3 days for it to cool down,
Wow.
and then fermented for 8 days, and then did what we call a single pass on the still, which just means we use the column up to proof and purity that way. But you still make cuts based on how stuff smells and tastes. But yeah, it was a big undertaking, and then I even got to. So I didn't design the label. We obviously have people to do that, but uh, I knew eventually I want to release something that's like this again, only matured in a barrel for a little while. So we decided to call this one Psych, and the next one will be kind of playing off that name, or somebody that has to do with Psych. So Psych
Ward,
was
like the
born
next.
a mortal woman.
Okay.
Sorry,
I was at Ward, so you have one is Psych and the other's Ward.
no, that would be good. That would be good. No, it's I can't say what it's going to be called yet because it's still
All
in the
right, fair
making.
enough. Fair enough.
Um, but it has to do with Psyche's story, and so Psyche was born a mortal woman in Greek mythology. Uh, she fell in love with Eros, which is Cupid, essentially the god of love, and Aphrodite. Cupid's or Euros's mom didn't like this, so she sent her on some trials and tribulations, just hoping she'd get lost, and she didn't. Euros also fell in love with her because Aphrodite sent him to shoot her with an arrow and make her fall in love with somebody else. Well, he pricked himself with the arrow and then seeing her and fell in love with Psyche. Ended up going to Zeus and saying, "Hey, I love this woman. Please make her an immortal." So he did, and she became the goddess of the soul.
Is Greek mythology not like the coolest layered
It's
stories?
I, I
Like,
love it.
like, like I'm watching with my son on Netflix, Blood of Zeus. It's an anime.
Hmm.
And I don't typically like anime because I think they all look like emo ninjas. Like, oh, so sad. Oh, this is so
That,
bad. Oh,
that's fair.
yeah, like that's every single one. I'm like, oh, I cut myself and then I cut you. Oh, like every one of them. But we started watching this Blood of Zeus because I like Castlevania when it was on there too. If you didn't watch Castlevania, it's really good. Uh,
Okay.
it's just a different style, but they get into some more of this Greek mythology, and I always have just felt like the layers to Greek mythology, how it works. I mean, it just tells you, the Romans lasted a hell of a lot longer than the Greeks did,
Hmm.
but you couldn't name me the Roman versions of the Greek gods. Like we get into it, we're like, well, I know they're mostly planets. So like there's Jupiter, there's Saturn, there's Mars, and I think most people can only tell you that Mars is the same as the god of war just because we remember that.
Hmm.
So very cool digging that you're definitely going into the Greek mythology. But I got to talk to you about the oat piece for a second.
Hmm.
We had the folks on from Newcastle Spirits, or not Newcastle, High Castle Spirits,
Hmm.
which is actually the real Downton Abbey from the TV show. Um,
Okay.
and we had them on, and they talked about using an oat in their gin to you so that it could be more of a sipping gin, because gins aren't considered as a sipping liquor.
Hmm.
They're normally you add something to gin to drink it, because depending upon what kind it is, it could taste like sucking on a pine cone or smelling a Christmas tree. What
Yep.
made you guys go and use an oat? Because I can tell you their reasoning for using an oat was because it would give a longer taste on the taste buds
Yep.
because of what it was. What was your reasoning for using an oat?
So that is actually the mash bill we use for that is actually our 4 grain mash bill that we use for the Lisa and Claire. You might have seen it on the website there. So it's corn, wheat, oats, and barley. 60 corn, 17 wheat, 13 oats, and then 10% barley. So when I was designing the mash bill for it, I thought about just doing 100% oats, but then I was trying to figure out how I could get all of that oat smoked and the cost that was going to go into that. And then I said, you know what? Corn is cheap. Why don't we just, use the 4 grain mash bill, and that way I can have some of the grain smoked. What we did with that was just send it up to we sent some barrel staves up to a malt house, and they smoked the grain and sent it back to us. But it just I knew I wanted some oats in there because oats they're obviously sweeter. They're a little bit creamier. The mouthfeel is really, really great. And I thought that would work really, really well with a gin. Like you just said, the holding on to stuff. So a lot of gins to me, they're crisp, they're clean. There's big flavors there, but like once it's gone, it's gone.
Gone.
This holds on for a long, long time. And so I was kind of wanting something like that. And I wanted that creaminess, that sweetness, that velvety kind of mouthfeel to go along with it because of the flavors that I put into this.
I love that. And so, and this is something that if somebody is out there in French Lick, India, like, is there, I mean, is Larry Bird came by? Let's ask. I'm going to ask now because I mean, he is the hick from French Lick. Has he ever
I
come by?
I've never seen him. I don't know that he has came by the distillery. I'm assuming he's been in the area before, but as big as he is, I kind of assume he probably stays kind of
Hidden.
on his own or at least kind of away from people.
That's a horrible life. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean,
Yeah,
amazing
there's no
basketball
way.
player. He's an amazing basketball player. I love watching the old videos of him or hearing people talk about just the level of shit talk that
Hmm.
he could just level onto another human being and then back it up. Like he backed it
Yeah.
up. Like sidebar completely. There's a story. I don't remember who it was. Early. I don't remember if it was early on in his career or he was a seasoned player, but I remember him looking at a coach one time and telling him, "How dare you put a white guy on to guard me? How dare you have a white guy guard me? You better
Yeah.
get a brother off that bench. How dare you?"
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, what level of badassery are you at when you
Yeah.
can say that and just everybody knows it? I mean, he was amazing. Again, folks, though, real quick, if you're finding us just now, please check out spiritofFrenchlick.com. If you got questions for Justin and you're curious about distilling, but we're going to get into now, we're going to kind of switch gears here because I really want to understand the drive of going from curious to career. That's really what I know we were going to talk about the liquor and everything, but I'm curious, I looked at your career path and stay with me. If I don't know if anyone's ever showed this to you, Justin, you might be like, son of a bitch, she psyched me already. Hence going with the shirt and everything. Um, EMTs, paramedics, you're pretty much
Hmm.
it's you and a partner. But for the most part, somebody's got to be the El Jefe. You know,
Yeah.
and you stand out in front of everything. Firefighter, same thing. Boxing, you're in the center of everything. Head distiller, everybody's going to look to you. If that batch sucks, that's your fault. So
Yep.
you've had a lot of career paths that have put you front and center as the single point of failure for a lot of things. And God, don't be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, and then like go crazy on me or nothing like that right now. But I mean, you have found career paths that have been a single point of failure. Is Justin? What do you think about you drives you to that point?
A lot of it, I think, is my upbringing. Just kind of, if you want something, go for it, and stick with it. I'm sure if you were probably the same as me when you were younger. If you started a sport, by God, you stuck with it and you done well. Um, you may not have enjoyed it, but you stuck with it and you learned it. And I kind of always liked. Shouldn't say liked. I always thrived in an area that, once again, you are the sole thing there. The What'd you call it? The sole
Single
point
point
of
of failure.
failure.
Yeah, you are
Yeah,
the
the
single
single
point of
point of
failure.
failure. I've always kind of thrived in that, and I think it's just because I know that if something goes right, it's on me. If something goes wrong, I have nobody else to blame but myself, because I don't want to be angry at somebody else. And then going back to my wife again, just her pushing me to, like, every point in my career, anything I'm doing, she pushed me, like, just go fucking do it because I know you can. And that's just it.
But
You kind of see something, you go for it.
I mean, you mentioned your upbringing. I'm just curious because I know me. I'm up up until a month ago, I was an only child. I just found out I had a brother that was born in 71. I was born in 76, and we didn't know each other existed for 47 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother story. But hey, at least my parents didn't get married till 72. So I mean, at least there was that positive in it all. But only child. My mother was always like, you want it, you better go get it. What was it in your background though? Because I mean, Justin, I really want to dig into that because I mean, not many people take their curiosity. I got a huge comic book collection. If you were to see the other side of this camera, I got Submariner #1. I've got Strange Tales, Enter the Watcher. I've got all kinds of stuff behind me of pop culture. I can't draw a straight line, so I'm not.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into that world. What is it though that in your upbringing, like that you feel like I mean, having that great cheerleader, but there's got to be some drive in you. Or what would you tell somebody that if they were in that same boat and they're like, I'm curious about making my own liquor. What are some of the things or advice that you've given other people?
So as far as my upbringing, I was raised by my grandparents. So I was kind of, whenever people or kids my age were hanging out with other kids and their parents, I was hanging out with other kids and their grandparents. So I guess this is old soul, if you want something, go get it, work hard at everything you do, learn everything you can, learn every day type kind of situation. And I've just held on to that. It's, if I wanted to do something, I tried to thrive at it the best I could. And it just stuck. It's something that I can't get rid of. As far as what I would tell people if they wanted to do something like this legally, the best thing you can do is find you somewhere that you can go hang out every once in a while. Find a small craft distillery, because by God, the craft distilleries need the support more than the big guys, and you're a whole lot more apt to get into the door at a craft distillery. Even if it's going to do it, you might have to go do a tour. You might have to go do 2 tours. You might say, "Hey, can I talk to your distiller for a little bit? Exchange information, talk about stuff." But get in there and see if you can help out, and just see if it's something that you really want to do. As far as at home, don't get caught. Stay small. Have fun with it, and have
One
fun
thing
with
you
it.
can kind of get away
I
with.
gotta say that twice.
Yeah. I mean, the fun. I mean, I think that's a key to it. If you're going to take it from curious to career, it's got to still be
Yeah.
fun. Um, Now you mentioned the at home. Listen, folks, we recommend that you do everything of a legal nature. Don't do anything that's illegal. Don't do anything that's immoral. Make sure that you're doing things properly and safely. Don't be like the idiot here in New York who watched Forged in Fire and almost burnt down the entire city of Cohoes
Oh
because
shit.
oh, you never heard about that?
Uh-uh.
Oh, that made pretty big news. Like here in by where we're at, Cohoes is an old city. Really got some really great restaurants and bars. They've really done a good job with trying to revitalize the area. And then some guy thought he's like, I watched Forge and Fire. I could do this too. And the next thing you know, he almost burned down like half of a big section of the city because
Holy shit.
yeah. Don't do it in your garage with your grandmother's hair dryer and a blowtorch. It just doesn't work like that.
No.
But what are some of the things, you've mentioned like mash bills and all those kind of items, but that person who is looking to move that career on, what's some of the things that you would say, hey, these are some of the items you need, or these are some of the things you should be doing to get ready? Because I don't, we've all seen like the TV show Moonshiners, where they're like, I've got to go 7 counties over to buy sugar and 5 counties the other way to buy corn. And, but what are some realistic things that people need to have if they're going to take this from curiosity to career?
So from curiosity to career, read everything you can as far as distilling, fermenting. Do not discount older material because nobody's reinventing the wheel. You're just remembering that the wheel was there in the first place, and you just got to make that wheel go your own way, right? So don't discount some of the older literature, but read everything that you can. And I'd be happy to send. I can't name them off the top of my head because I'm terrible at remembering names of the books. But I'm more than happy to send you some stuff and that you can post at some point in time. As far as equipment for doing stuff, and once again, I'm not encouraging you to do the stuff at home, but there's probably more home distillers
Dude,
than ever.
you can buy an entire still from Amazon.
Oh, I know.
Whole thing.
I won't tell you how I know, but I know.
I'll tell you how I know. I've looked it up. I was like, maybe I'll do this shit on my own.
There may be one that one. So, but start small, start simple, because if you don't start simple, you're going to get discouraged very, very, very quickly. YouTube is your friend. There's wonderful information out there from beginner all the way up to advanced through people that are in careers that could be learning from some of these people that are posting stuff online on YouTube. One of my favorite channels is Still It on YouTube. He's actually in New Zealand, so it's legal to distill there.
Oh, cool.
His name is Jesse, and he does all kinds of stuff. Alan has a great YouTube channel, Alan Bishop.
That's your mentor.
That's my mentor. There's all kinds of information out there, but just start simple. If you're going to do something at home, 1 pound of sugar per gallon of water with 1 pound of grain. Don't worry about trying to convert starches. Just do it as a sugar shine, essentially, and then let it ferment. Get it off the grain, put it in the still, and fuck it up at least 15 times.
You got to mess it up. That's the key to it all. And we're getting pretty close here to closing the bar. One of the things, though, that you mentioned here that I'm curious is, again, I have a good buddy of mine, Jesse Sommers. I showed you the bottle from New Scotland Spirits, and we're going to try to get you a bottle of that. It is my favorite rye. It's a true rye. It's not a blended rye. It's not anything else. Did you know that there's now a thing called an Empire rye?
I had not heard that, but that doesn't surprise me because I'm still trying to delve into names of stuff because I'm terrible with that. But
so it's fairly new here in New York. We talked about this before the show, and I've talked about it before, folks. Rye is a New York grain, and they actually, funny enough, if you go to the governor's office here in New York, and Cuomo Lord Commander Cuomo didn't realize this till the owner of Albany Distilling pointed this out to him. They have a grapevine, a wheat plant, a rye plant, and I think the other one may be a barley. And he's pointing to it like look. And the governor had no idea that in his office where he's signing the bill that allowed for all these distilleries here in New York was 4 pieces of stained glass showing how New York was built on liquor. He had no idea.
The history of it. They're in New York. Yeah.
Right.
A lot
But
of states are that way.
yeah, but Empire Ryes are actually I don't know if this will come up on the screen or not. See if I can get that to come up. So it's actually right there. So it's a style of rye similar to a Kentucky bourbon. It just means that it's something like 75% of the product has to come from New York rye.
Okay. Very nice.
But I'm going to get that out to you. We're going to try to see if we can get that out to you. The only thing I can tell you, brother, is the first sip that you'll have. Remember smelling a baseball, the first time you smelled a baseball glove as a kid, that leathery smell?
Yeah.
Like it brings back memories. As I said it,
Yeah.
you had a memory that just came to you of being
Yep.
a kid standing somewhere where you're like, I know, because what's the whole thing? Smell is the closest thing attached to memory.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you just had one. Well, all I can tell you is when you have this rye, it smells like summertime.
Oh,
Like
Yep.
think about that for a second. It smells like fresh baseball glove, sitting around a campfire, hanging out with buddies. It's impressive. It's my favorite, But
I'm excited for that.
I say all that, and I will do my best to get one from French Lick because I like trying new stuff. But I wanted to kind of roll this back for a second. What, as you talk about the things for somebody to make, what would you say? Because what's the saying? Vodka's for the money, bourbon's for the love.
Yeah, pretty much.
What would you recommend for somebody as like a first spirit to try to create?
To try to create just like I said a while ago, just a simple uh, what we call a sugar shine. So how many ever gallons of mash or wash you want. Say you want 10 gallons, then use 10 pounds of sugar, 10 pounds of whatever grain you want to use. Heat that up. Once again, don't worry about trying to convert the starches in the corn. That's why you actually have the sugar there, and ferment that and just try that. You might try it with oats. Oats is a really, really cool one to mess around with because then you get something that's just a little different. Stay away from the rye until you get a little bit more advanced because rye tends to get thicker, stickier, cause a whole lot of problems if you're not careful. But just once again, just keep it simple and don't be afraid to do weird shit. I made a tomato brandy one time because I wanted to see what it would. Yeah, tomato brandy. Yeah.
How bad was that? How bad was it?
It was actually really good. So tomato wine, I love tomato wine.
That's a thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't see it very often commercially, but every once in a while you see a commercial winery do it. But whenever I started learning to make wine, the gentleman that taught me how to make wine made tomato and carrot wine, and they're both phenomenal. But so French Lick and West Baden area is actually the birthplace of tomato juice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have 2 very large upscale hotels there. We have the West Baden Dome and then the French Lick Hotel. That early 1900s was super, super popular. It was a big area. It was you had the Chicago outfit coming down, the wise guys spending time down there. It was just a really big area. Well, there was a chef that ran out of grapefruit juice, so he had to come up with something, and he took some tomatoes, juiced them, added some salt, and that was the birth
of tomato juice.
Yeah,
Wow.
of serving it as a drink. So that might be something that I want to do in the future, just to mess around with, because I'm all up for doing something really weird. So,
can I offer one for you that I would love for you to make? And this was my great uncle Nunzio's thing. Dandelion wine.
Dandelion wine's great, but it sucks to make.
Well, all I can remember is when he died, we found a bottle of it under the sink because that's where he fermented his. was under the sink. Very, very Italian thing to do.
Oh yeah.
It was tough. Like you had to be a tough son of a bitch to drink that. I don't know
Yeah.
if it was ready to be drank yet. I just know it was there, and we all pulled it out. And we all took a sip, and we're like, I think my eye won't stop twitching. Like it was rough. It was rough stuff.
Dandelion wine's very good, but like I said, it's a pain in the butt to make, just picking and cleaning and all that. It's a labor of love.
I got to tell you a funny here that you were mentioning about trying different weird stuff. Um, one of my favorite beers, you may have had it, Magic Hat. You ever had Magic Hat?
I've not.
Magic Hat is one of your early craft, back when they were still called microbrews. You know,
Mhm.
before this whole like, I can't be a microbrew. I'm a craft beer. I wear knitted sweaters and bullshit like that. Um, they were one of the original. And if you ever went to their distillery in Vermont, um, it looked like adult Willy Wonka. Like it was really
Oh,
like it was like this really cool. You walk through, they had posters of the beers that looked like movie posters. They had the big wings on a set of chairs that you could sit in and look like it, but all the colors were very like you get a chance, look up Magic Hat number 9. The name and the way it looked was great. I can't think of the distillery that's in its place right now because they've gone national, but they used to have this beer that was um, cucumber hibiscus.
ooh,
And do you want to talk about the cleanest flavor of beer you've ever had? I don't know
yeah.
if you had the cucumber uh, Gatorade before. Gatorade has a
Hmm.
cucumber flavor, but it just super clean on your palate. Like you drink it, it
Yep.
tastes great, and then it's like your palate just feels clean.
Yep.
So they made this cucumber hibiscus, and me and my wife, we were dating at the time. We went there. Quick story here, and we were dating at the time, and as we're in the distillery and we get done at the end of the tour, you didn't have to pay for the tour. It was a free tour. At the end of the tour, you still got 4 6-ounce glasses,
Oh
and
my.
she wasn't going to drink hers. I did. Now, Roger, me, like, and what was crazy about it is, she said to the guy because she was gonna drink, she goes, "Hey, do you have that, one," and she's trying to remember cucumber hibiscus. It was like a flower, haya Q he goes, "Cucumber hibiscus will never make it." Like the most and he wasn't saying it in a mean way, but it was the most aggressive way I've ever heard a statement put. He goes,
He
"Cucumber
says absolutely not.
like, I will burn this building down before we ever make that again." And we're like
Yeah.
and I looked at the guys like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And the guy told us it took so much cucumber hibiscus extract
Hmm.
to make the beer that oh, excuse me, it ruined batches of the regular Magic Hat number 9. It ruined batches because this was still in the lines. They tried to flush the lines themselves. They ended up having to hire a third party company to come in and flush the entire system because it was in such bad shape because this stuff stained their line so bad.
Oh wow.
They're like, "We'll never make it again." But I'm gonna tell you, from a flavor profile, it's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Like, when you're talking about that tomato wine, I can understand where it's like, "Hey, this isn't typical, but there's a flavor profile in here that everybody could love." So,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to me. Now, we were talking about this beforehand, we're almost done here. You got a podcast getting ready to come out?
So I have that's a funny story. I have a podcast. It's called Still Learning. So I play on words, still
I love it.
distillation, still learning. And once again, I'm very much a forever student. I try to learn something new every day, or I may not learn something new every day, but I at least try to address something or learn something new every day. So I started a podcast. Shoot, it's been a year ago, or no, 2 years ago now, I think. I think there's like 8 episodes on there. I'll go on a rampage and I'll start recording stuff, and then I'll get bored, and then I kind of put it away for a little while because I'll get busy with other things, and then I'll be like, I really need to record another episode. So I'll record a couple more and then back and forth. So that's the way it's been. I will say I do better with this, like talking to somebody and learning about them and maybe them learning about me or just discussions than I do sitting or trying to sit down and record information that I want to put out there, which is honestly why I told you earlier I'm writing a book. I do better at like
I was going to ask you
conveying
about
my
the
own
book also.
information that way.
So you got the podcast.
Yep.
And now what's the book about?
So it's called Still Learning also, and I'm eventually going to turn it into hopefully a few different books. But this one it's honestly from the beginning, so early stages of life, my upbringing, through school, a little bit of college. There's not gonna be a lot of college in there because to be honest, I hated college. And then fire at EMS, talk about some of my friends that are no longer with us, and then how I got into distilling, and honestly, just maybe my life lessons, my memories, my stories, the way I seen stuff, or the way I seen my life going versus the way it's went. More of a memoir than anything is what the first one's going to be.
I'm loving it. So I don't know where Nate's at. I'll have to yell at him here in a minute. Normally Nate shows up. And again, if you're just catching us here towards the end, please give us a like and a follow. If you got a last minute question for Justin, please do that and check out their website, spiritoffrenchlick.com. I definitely, you know what? I liked Indiana when I drove out there. I bet here's one for you where I've been in Indiana. I've been to Goshen, Indiana.
Goshen, yeah.
Goshen, which was probably one of the scariest towns I've ever been to because their brochure said that the 200 people that live, or the entire Amish population there, could track their lineage back to the original 200 settlers of the area.
Mm-hmm.
Which all I could think of was that's a really shallow gene pool.
That's not a tree, that's a branch.
But I will tell you, somewhere out there is completely sidebar. There's a fat kid that lives in my soul. Somewhere out there in Goshen area is a Amish run restaurant that makes by far the best chicken. I wouldn't want to call it chicken a la king. Some people call it chicken and biscuits, where they make the chicken and then bake the biscuits on top of it. I don't know if you've ever been to the place, if you know where I'm talking about.
I don't, but I got something funny to tell you here in a second. But go ahead.
It is absolutely outstanding. But if Nate was here, he would ask you this question. So we'll stay with psych for a second, because that is the newest thing that is your baby. Do you have a favorite meal yet to drink with psych?
Oh, that'd be a hard one, because it is so freaking heavy. I haven't sat down and ate a meal with it yet, to be 100% honest. I've played a lot with it with cocktails. If I had to guess, it would have, honestly, I take that back. I know what would go really good with it, because I've made it's not a meal. It would be dessert.
All right, go with it.
It would be a super heavy fudge brownie with whipped cream and orange zest on top.
Oh, I like it.
The only reason I say that is because I made that one time, but I did an absinthe infused whipped cream and put on top of it, and that has a lot of star anise in it. So I think that would go really, really well with that.
I'm liking it right now. I'm feeling that, and the little chubby kid in my soul is feeling it also. Well, look, folks, if you love what Justin's got to say, you can also find him over. Betty says, just tell him about Amish community so close. Betty,
that's my mom.
Betty, listen, I lived in Baltimore, and you wouldn't think we had Amish all over the place, but we actually had this really great farmers market. The Amish would come down from Lancaster and the coolest thing they did, I still to this day when I'm home, I want to go over there and have it. They would do pretzels, but like, bro, the pretzels were 1.5 inches, 2 inch thick, but they would do a pizza pretzel. So if you could imagine a pretzel, like good pretzel, salt and everything, but then put sauce on it and cheese on it and pepperoni.
I can get down with that.
Dude, The fat kid in my soul loves everything about that. So
Absolutely.
So Betty, you did a hell of a job with this one. I got to tell you, I don't know if there's any other ones, but you win with this one. So you've got your Instagram, or not Instagram, but your TikTok. You're pretty active over there, and that's your name, Justin Whaley, Whaley. Used to be Dead Man. We didn't even get into all that. We could have got into that piece. That's a whole nother story in and of itself. So
we'll have to do this again.
We'll do it again. Now we do this with every episode, and I know you binge through many different episodes, but you may have missed this part to it. Don't log off on me afterwards. Let's see. Betty said, "Thank you, thank you. Very proud. You absolutely should be, Betty. I am enjoying this conversation thoroughly. But as I tell everyone, don't log off afterwards. We got to talk for 1 minute afterwards, there, Justin. But at the end of every episode, the guest always gets the final word. So what's our final word, Justin?
Got to have a glass.
Alrighty, folks.
Don't take life too seriously. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Don't take life too seriously. Chase what you love. Love everybody. Tell everybody close to you that you love them. And just live life.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.